Too much time on the internet can make kids sad and lonely. They stay inside and don't talk to others. The world is different because of the internet. It's hard for kids to stop using it. The Elite Re-Education Academy helps kids who spend too much time online. They learn important things like respecting grown-ups and being kind to others. Learning these things when they're young helps them grow up to be good people. A boy named Hibiki wakes up from his sleep in a locked room with 3 other kids. He thinks they're in a game and they woke up in this room, but that's not true. Then, 4 guards and the headmistress of the Elite Re-Education Academy come in. They call the students trash. The headmistress, Jean, and the head teacher, Xian, are the only people the students have to listen to. One of the kids gets hurt really bad when he doesn't listen to them. The headmistress leaves, and Xian calls out names. Xian tells Hibiki that he's trash because he spent too much time on the internet. He asks if Hibiki was looking at the headmistress's things and hurts him. The teacher tells the students to line up and takes them for a bath. They have to wear the same clothes every day and follow a strict schedule. Hibiki thinks about leaving but realizes he has nowhere to go. He was always rude and focused on his games. Some boys flirt with girls, and the teacher comes with 3 boys. They notice Hibiki is missing and start searching for him. Meanwhile, Hibiki is on the roof, thinking about ending his life. Shin, an older student, arrives. He suggests Hibiki should jump when the teacher passes by so they can both become heroes. Hibiki thought about not being alive anymore, but when he faced it, he was scared. Shin makes Hibiki uncomfortable and gives him binoculars. He says Hibiki can pick any girl he likes. Hibiki sees a girl from his old school, Shiori. He really liked her, but he didn't think she'd like him back. Shin agrees with his choice and says Hibiki can go out with Shiori if he listens to Shin. Hibiki agrees to do what Shin says. Shin helps Hibiki when Shion is upset, saying Hibiki needed the bathroom. Shin is good at talking to people like Shion and helps Hibiki. Meanwhile, Shion talks to the headmistress in her room, and a strange person is there too. Shin took Hibiki to where lots of other students were. He talked to a guy named Wudo quietly, then came back to Hibiki. Wudo, the fashion police, took his duty to strip search a little too seriously. My guy used his power to strip a girl and found a phone on her. The pervert used that as an excuse to try to take her clothes off. He said he was in charge so he could do it. Shiori came over and stopped Wudo from bothering Jun. Shiori was good at fighting and beat up Wudo. She was the boss of the student group, so she could punish boys like Wudo. When one boy tried to hurt Shiori, Hibiki jumped in and saved her. A teacher came and stopped everything. The other students left, and Shiori was left with Hibiki and Jun. Shiori remembered Hibiki and asked him to come with her so she could help him. Meanwhile, Shin told the head teacher what happened. The head teacher warned Shin about what might happen next. In a room, Shiori helped Hibiki's injuries, then asked Jun for something in return. Jun didn't understand what trade meant. Shiori had saved Jun, and now she wanted something back. Despite the strict rules, Jun managed to sneak a phone into school. Shiori wanted another phone from Jun, but Jun said no. Shiori then said she wouldn't help Jun anymore. Hibiki thought Shiori was nice, but he was surprised by her mean behavior. Shiori told Hibiki and Jun to leave, and then Shin came in with a phone. Shiori and Hibiki both wanted it. Shin said they could have it if one of the girls got intimate with Hibiki. Jun told Hibiki she didn't know how to do that and asked him to let her go. Hibiki couldn't say no to her cute face, so he agreed. Shin then told Hibiki about Shiori's past. Shiori had been using Hibiki for a while. She used people to get what she wanted, which was her secret trick. Shiori needed the phone, so she had to get intimate with Hibiki. Shin went outside while Shiori and Hibiki did what they agreed on. Hibiki told Shiori she didn't have to do it if she didn't want to, but she was determined. She tried to kiss Hibiki, but ended up throwing up instead. Even though she didn't want to, they kissed. Meanwhile, Shin tried to get into Jun's phone, but it was locked with a password. Shiori really wanted the phone, but Hibiki didn't want to bother a girl to get it. They remembered their time in middle school, and Shiori said she was disappointed to be in a school for internet addicts. Hibiki wanted to help Shiori and find a way out. He had to prove to Shin that he and Shiori were close so Shiori could get the phone. In a desperate move, he masturbated on a piece of cloth to show as proof. Hibiki's proof to Shin was definitely not in the school's curriculum. Anyway, Shiori left and took the phone from Shin. Meanwhile, Wudo was mad at Shin for tricking him. Shin said he'd give Wudo Jun's phone, but he gave it to Shiori instead. Wudo wanted to get back at Shin. Shin asked Hibiki for proof, and Hibiki gave him the cloth. But Hibiki said he thought what they did was wrong. Shin got mad and told Hibiki to call him master from now on. He didn't want to be friends. He wanted Hibiki to be his helper. Hibiki said he wouldn't be Shin's helper anymore and left. He decided to get stronger so he could escape with Shiori, but he got bullied. He wondered what his roommates would be like and waited outside his door. One of them opened the door and they were all nice to him. The guy who opened the door was like a big brother to them, and protected them from trouble. He was in charge of the dorm. Hibiki's roommates asked him to get them food because they knew he was friends with Shin and wouldn't need money for it. They gave him 4 lunch boxes. Hibiki went to the food place and saw the fancy menu, but he could only get the free nasty food. Hibiki's lunchtime adventure was like a budget version of Food Wars. Meanwhile, he saw Shin eating fancy food all alone. Hibiki came back with the free food, disappointing his roommates who had been nice to him because they thought he was Shin's friend. They thought he'd bring better food and wanted to hit him, but they were no match for Hibiki as they didn't know how to fight as they played video games all the time. The boys told Hibiki that the dorm boss made them give him money and bullied them. Hibiki talked to the dorm boss for his roommates, but the boss didn't listen. Meanwhile, Shiori tried to get into Jun's phone, but Jun caught her. Jun said Shiori couldn't get into the phone that way. Jun offered to get Shiori a new phone if she gave back Jun's phone, but Shiori said no. All the students went outside for exercise, and Shion told them the rules. If they broke the rules or were rude to older people, they'd get in big trouble. They had to work hard until they stopped being addicted to the internet and became useful in society. The training starts with a 1500-meter race and some really silly exercises. While trying a tough pose called the horse stance, Hibiki's roommates can't keep up with the others and fall down. So Shion decides to punish them. They didn't eat the food Hibiki brought, and Hibiki ate it all by himself. Hibiki tells Shion to stop hitting them because they didn't eat. He's trying to help them, but Shion tells him to be quiet. He tries to defend them and talks back to Shion. Shion tries to hit him, but Hibiki fights back and hurts Shion. Hibiki's defense strategy was like a scene from Karate Kid, but with less waxing and more whacking. Shion's nose is bleeding and he's mad at Hibiki. Hibiki speaks up for his classmates, but no one supports him. They're okay with how Shion treats them. Shiori shows up and hits Hibiki. She says sorry for him, but Hibiki doesn't want it. He tells Shiori he'd rather die than be treated like that. He keeps talking back, and Shiori's phone falls out of her pocket. She gets punished by her classmates, getting slapped, and Hibiki's classmates also get punished because of him. They won't stop punishing them unless Hibiki says sorry. Hibiki apologizes to save his classmates, and the punishment stops. His classmates spit on his face for getting them in trouble, and Shiori is mad at him too. Shin shows up and says nobody will help him. Hibiki puts aside his pride and asks Shin to be his helper again. Shin says only special people get to be his helper. He wants to give Hibiki another chance with 3 conditions. 1, he has to lead his class. 2, he has to get rid of Wudo from his job and take his title. And the 3rd condition is a secret. Hibiki goes to his room, and all the guys are there, ready to hit him. He tells them he'll be their new leader and gives them fancy food. They agree with him. Then he goes to Wudo and punches him where it hurts. He fights Wudo and his friends to finish the 2nd task Shin gave him. Hibiki keeps fighting Wudo and his friends. They surround him, but Hibiki has some tricks up his sleeve. He can't beat them one by one, but with good planning and Shin's help, he defeats a lot of them. He keeps running, and they keep chasing him. He runs and goes through the dorm gate. Only Wudo follows him through before the gate closes at 9 p.m. Hibiki keeps running to distract them and delay them. Everyone else is stuck outside, and it's like a battle between Hibiki and Wudo. Hibiki might not win against Wudo in a fight, but he's the new leader of Class 4, so everyone listens to him. Class 4 punishes Wudo for bullying them and beats him up. We see Hibiki and Wudo on the ground. This showdown with Wudo is like a video game boss fight, but with fewer power-ups and more smartphone smackdowns. Shion is there too, and Hibiki is tied up with a bunch of phones in front of him. Hibiki tells Shion that Wudo sneaked the phones into his room and wouldn't admit it. He worked with his classmates to show what Wudo was doing. Shion punishes Wudo and says he has big hopes for Hibiki. We also see Jean talking to parents with their child. They're getting their kid into the school because he's addicted to the internet. John assures the parents that their child will transform in the coming year, becoming more resilient and confident. John scolds Shion for his recent mistakes, and Shion apologizes, but Jean says Shion needs to be punished and gives him a beating. Instructor Ryo takes responsibility for the cell phones. Wudo's phone smuggling helped Ryo, and Wudo asks for forgiveness. Ryo asks Wudo why he exposed Jun, and Wudo says it was his duty as the discipline officer. Ryo punishes Wudo and leaves. Jun was Ryo's partner, and she asks Ryo to return her phone. Ryo asks Shion for it, but he gets a different phone, tricked by Shin. Shin takes Hibiki to his room, which is cool. He praises Hibiki for beating Wudo and shares his plan. Each class has a phone smuggler, and exposing them will earn Shion's trust. Shin wants to target Class 6 next and tells Hibiki to get to work. Hibiki goes to his class and tells them to fight, but they're scared. Hibiki calls them cowards and says he won't lead them anymore. calling them losers. His motivational speech was like a pep talk gone wrong. We see Ryo punishing Shin for his actions. Meanwhile, siblings Akane and Hoku challenge Shiori, confirming her strength. They want to bring together the three girls' classes into one. They know Shiori has a lot of power as a former student council president, and want to use that to unite the whole school eventually. Shin is being beaten up by Ryo and Ban. His new ally, Ban, saves him as his bodyguard. Shin tells Ryo he just wants to live freely. Meanwhile, Hibiki is where Shin told him to be. Some boys gang up on him, ready to fight. Instead of fighting back, Hibiki starts hitting himself, surprising the boys. Meanwhile, Shiori gets an interesting offer from Akane. If Shiori helps them, she'll get a phone to use. Akane, a hacker, has many phones and can track all the phones in school. She knows a lot about Shiori. She has a sick little brother and her mom is dead. She needs a phone to talk to her brother and will get it if she teams up with Akane. Hibiki covers himself in red sauce and begs for mercy. He pretends those boys beat him up, and Shion arrives. He acts innocent and tells Shion the boys attacked him for exposing secrets, so Shion punishes them. Hibiki tricked them and manipulates them into helping him. Shiori joins them for the promise of a phone. Shiori's team and Hibiki's team meet each other. Shiori asks Hibiki to give her all the phones Wudo smuggled, but he says no. The girls use force, and Hoku beats all the boys. Hibiki is trapped, and he can't fight Hoku, but Shin saves him. Shiori threatens Shin with revenge for giving her a useless phone. Shin knows he can't fight them, so he runs away with Hibiki. They keep running and hide in the boys' restroom. The girls find them and confront Shin and Hibiki with their allies. One of them is Yo, leader of Class 6, and the other is Ban from Class 20. Shin agrees to team up with Hibiki to beat Yo, but he betrays Hibiki and joins Yo instead. Shin says Yo wanted to team up with him and having strong guys on their side is good. Ban and Yo are very strong and the girls can't beat them. Shin tells Hibiki to take naked pictures of the girls to blackmail them. Hibiki thinks it's wrong and refuses. Shin gives him two choices: help him or become his enemy. Hibiki has to do what Shin says or leave the group. We see a guy named Moku who just joined the school. He's getting picked on because he tried to escape. He dug a tunnel and attempted to run away, but now everyone's teasing him for it. He asks Shion for help, but Shion doesn't care and says he dislikes escape attempts. Hibiki tells Shin he'll take one picture of Shiori naked if they let them go. Shin agrees, and Hibiki starts to undress her. He asks them to untie her because he can't do it while she's tied up. He throws her clothes at Ban's face and tells them to run. Akane and Hoku escape, but Shiori gets caught by Shin, putting Hibiki in trouble. Shin insults him and calls him trash, saying he's worthless alone. Instructor Ryo shows up and Hibiki tries to complain about Shin, but Ryo ignores him. He announces the news. Hibiki caused trouble and got a phone in school. Hibiki denies it, but they find a phone in his pocket. Ryo just wanted Jun's phone, and Shin set Hibiki up with Ryo's help. Shin manipulated Hibiki and betrayed him. Hibiki gets a 2-week punishment in jail and reflects on his life. Hibiki's life was tough. His family always treated him poorly, and he felt stuck playing games in his room. But when he joined this school, his master betrayed him. Now he's determined to start fresh and be someone new. 7 years ago, Shion was in a battle with his comrades. They were losing, and a spy among them betrayed them. Shion wanted to survive, so he abandoned the mission, leaving his brother and comrades to die. He was called a traitor, while his brother was hailed as a hero. But his nephew Gon saw things differently. Gon was addicted to the internet and didn't even go to his father's funeral. He didn't respect his family and caused them a lot of trouble. Shion also had a niece named Jean. He decided to meet her and found her letting a man die without giving him medicine. She threw it away and watched him die in front of Shion.